Well, hey, everybody, and welcome to Central at Home. Such an honor that you could be with us today over the next 45 minutes or so. And wherever you're watching this or however you're watching this with your friends and with your family, so honored that you decided to spend the next 45 minutes or so with us today. We'd love for you to take a moment right now and share this link on whatever platform you're on, whether that's Facebook, YouTube, or on our website, as this is one of the most easy and most effective ways of getting the word out about this amazing community. And on this special Good Friday, we think it's so important that people hear this message. We'd love for you to take a moment just to share this with your friends and with your family. You know, today we're kicking off what is one of the most important weekends for us as a church. That is Easter. And so today we're beginning with Good Friday, and it's going to be continued on Sunday. And so we're sort of doing a two-part series over this weekend. But today we're going to focus on Jesus' death, and Sunday we're going to focus on his resurrection. And so as a part of that today, we want to invite you to participate in this with something called communion. And so we'd love for you, if you haven't already, to grab something to eat and something to drink. It doesn't matter what those things are. The point is just that you participate. So go ahead right now, if you haven't already, grab something to eat, something to drink, as we're going to participate in communion in just a few moments. Also, like I already mentioned, Sunday we will be having an Easter celebration, and we'd love for you to join us. You can join us in person. There's just a few spots remaining, so head over to our website for availability. That's Sunday morning at 9, 10:30, and 12. Or, as always, you can join us online at 9, 10:30, 12, or anytime during the week as well. But we'd love for you to be a part of that experience on Sunday, April 4th, 9, 10:30, and 12. If you have any questions or would like to get connected, simply head over to our website, centralcc.ca/connect, or you could text the word Central to 905-937-5610. Well, with all that being said, our Good Friday experience is about to begin, and it all starts right now.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for a Good Friday service. Why don't you sing along as we remember our Savior?
Sky, leaving heaven's throne. I was meant to die, you wouldn't let me go. The riches of your grace I could not afford. My guilt has been erased. Now I'm forever yours. Oh, what a price you paid, trading the highest place. Lay down your crown for me. How great a king.
From death life has begun. A garden from the grave. You're bursting through the night. Yours is the victory. Oh yes.
From death life has begun, a garden from the grave. You're bursting through the night. Yours is the victory. Oh, what a price you paid, trading the highest place. Lay down your crown for me. How great a king. Oh, what a life you gave. You gave up everything that you would die for me. How great a king. How great a king. Oh, how great you are. Oh, Jesus. For all you are and all you've done, we lift you up, lift you up. For all you are and all
going to read 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 23 to 26 together. It says this, "For I received from the Lord what I also delivered to you, that the Lord Jesus, on the night when he was betrayed, took bread. And when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, 'This is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me.' In the same way, he also took the cup after supper, saying, 'This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this as often as you drink it in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this bread and drink the cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes.'" I can't imagine what the disciples would have felt like just a few short hours after they experienced this with Jesus. There's Jesus on the cross, bloodied and beaten and tortured. And in their mind, not only are they feeling the loss of a friend that they love, but they're grieving because the losses of dreams in their life. They had believed that Jesus was going to usher in a new kingdom and a new place, a place of peace, a new government. And there he is on the cross, suffering. I can't imagine what they would have felt. And maybe it reminds us even of ourselves. This past year, COVID has been very difficult for many of us. Many of us have experienced the loss of finances, the loss of jobs, the loss of businesses. Many of us have felt the loss of relationships and even the loss of loved ones. And each one of us are going through these moments of grief. But perhaps it's not just that for you. Maybe it's the loss of a dream. Maybe you lost a hope that you really had. And you ask yourselves, God, where are you in the midst of this? I know for myself, after having lost some things during the season, I'm reminded in this scripture that in the middle of my loss, there Jesus is. He's actually with the disciples as they go through their loss. Isaiah chapter 53 says in verse 4, "Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows." And what the disciples may have forgotten in that moment was that Jesus was there all along. And so the hope we have is that no matter what we go through, no matter what we experience, Jesus is experiencing that very thing with us. He is with us in our challenges, with us in our sorrows, in our grief. And so as we take this cup of remembrance, remembering that he suffered and died, and as we take this bread, we're reminded that no matter the challenges we face, no matter what we're going through, no matter what we may have gone through, he's always there with us. I'd like to pray for you right now. So God, I just thank you that you carried our grief, you carried our sorrow, that no matter what we have gone through, you are there with us. You have walked with us through that. Help us to remember that. Help us to remember your great love for us. In your name, amen. Let's take the symbol of Jesus' body, or Jesus' blood that was shed and his body that was broken for us, as we focus on his love for us together.
price you paid, the sacrifice you made for dying for us. We stand in your presence. We're thankful for you, Jesus. Yes, we are.
In 5.5 years, I found a new identity of being her mother. So I was also her mother, I was her nurse. I scheduled all of her appointments. Now I have to find a whole new identity. I didn't know what to do with myself. I really felt lost.
So it is my privilege today to be with my friends, Derek and Sue. And we've known each other 20 years. We're in the same life group. We've golfed, Derek and I. We've golfed, you and I, and Sue, we've coached volleyball. Your daughter's a great volleyball player. And so it really is an honor to be your friend. And, you know, I think when people would first meet you, they think, oh, here's a really confident couple. They've all have it all together. You're super funny. You're engaging. You're interesting. You've got great careers. You have amazing kids. And I think the temptation would be, hey, they've got it all together. They've never had any hardship in their life. And so it's easy for them. And so today, I want, if you would give us the honor, I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about your story, and especially your daughter, Brooke.
A few years into our marriage, we thought, it's just time to take that next step and have a baby. A lot of our friends had already had kids, and there were some issues during her birth. And sadly, she was born with no vital signs, but was resuscitated. We decided to name her Brooke Nicole. She was transferred to McMaster, where the doctors told us that they didn't think that she was going to live a day. We were doing everything you're supposed to do as a new married couple, so why was this happening to me? I felt betrayed. I couldn't feel where God was at the time. Like, I didn't see him. I even had trouble praying. And then the worst happened, just as they said, is that she started to have some seizures. We took her back to McMaster, and they said, there's extensive brain damage. She's going to have a very difficult life. She'll have cerebral palsy. Yeah, her life expectancy is going to be really short. And so now that became our new title. Instead of parents, we're parents of a disabled child. And so that was our life, full of nurses and doctors. Life was as good as it could be, I guess, for us. And we were happy. And then very unexpectedly, Brooke got the chicken pox just after Christmas. And we thought, that happens, because she was actually going to school. She was 5.5 at the time. And when it was our turn, we went into the triage with the nurse, and they hooked her up to the monitors. It kept just flashing 28, and that was her blood oxygen level, which should be, 95 to 100. And he basically grabbed her out of Derek's arms and ran. And then we heard code blue to the ER. And I just screamed my head off. And then the doctors come to you and say, things don't look good. We don't think that we're going to be able to hold her much longer. She may have a few days on this ventilator, but it's not going to hold her. But you do have an opportunity. If you want to let her go, then you can take away the machines and you can hold her one more time. So yeah, it was peaceful. But at that moment, I flashed back all the last 5.5 years of her life, in which she had multiple surgery, was in casts for her hips, the injections, the suctioning, she had such a difficult life. And I knew at that moment that she didn't have to be here anymore. She could go enter into heaven and run and jump and be everything that I think God intended her to be from the beginning. So it was comforting, but at the same time, our hearts were being ripped out. Like, I can't even describe, it's hard to even put into words that feeling of your child being taken from you. Like, yeah, it was really something I'll never forget. I'm surprised I don't have PTSD because of all of the things I went through with her birth and then having to say goodbye to her.
So you have this story where it's such an emotional roller coaster. It goes from, okay, looks like it's going to be okay, it's not okay. It's going to be okay, it's not okay. You're trying your best to navigate. And Brooke breathed her last breath. Could you just tell us what you're feeling in that moment?
It was hard. It was hard because we thought we were professional handicapped parents, like handicapped children parents. We had it all down packed. We knew all the nursing times. We knew everything we could handle this. We thought we could handle this. But handling her going, it's just all wiped away. It's all wiped away. Like, even when we got back after she passed away, the nurses for the company that was taking care of us made sure that all the hospital stuff, equipment and everything for Brooke was gone out of our house when we got home. And it was really tough to see that. It was really tough, even though they thought it would be healthier, but in reality, it was just like gone, everything.
But then the guilt crept in, where I felt, how could I not believe in his power and his, I was raised, as a Christian, and how can I, be mad at God? I think somewhere along the line I learned that it was wrong to be mad at God, but also I felt that God understands that I'm mad at him because this is just life. Like, I knew this is just life. People suffer. I've seen it in my own job. I see it all the time. People suffer. But for us, what do we do? Where do we go from here? Like, how do I found my whole identity. Like, in 5.5 years, I found a new identity of being her mother. So I was also her mother. I was her nurse. I scheduled all of her appointments. Now I have to find a whole new identity. I didn't know what to do with myself. After that, a whole piece of me was missing. But I knew God's promises, but I had to, it's a weird thing, but I almost had to relearn them or re-feel them. Just once again, because I sort of felt betrayed by God that I loved and served. How can bad things happen like this? But it does happen.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing. I'm moved again by the story deeply. Imagine I came to your home. Thanks, by the way, for having us in your home right now. And I presented this as a gift for you. Now, if you don't know what it is, you'd probably be a bit confused, frustrated, like, why do I want this? And what I've come to realize in life is that often we are handed things that we don't fully understand and we maybe don't even want. And this is exactly where the disciples were on the Good Friday. Now, to understand the story, we have to go back a little bit because Jesus actually told them what was going to happen. And in Matthew 17, verse 22, we read, when Jesus came together with his disciples in Galilee, he said to them, the Son of Man, speaking of himself, is going to be delivered into the hands of men. They will kill him, and on the third day, he will be raised to life. And then there's this really interesting line because it's a bizarre response. It says, and then the disciples were filled with grief. This word grief is the Greek word lepeo, which literally means to be heartbroken. And I got thinking, why were they so heartbroken. I mean, Jesus said, yes, I'm going to die, but on the third day, I'm going to be raised to life. I think it's because they got stuck on the first part of the story. They were handed a narrative that they weren't expecting, they didn't know what to do with, and they didn't understand. Maybe they were confused. Like, what do you mean you're going to die and rise again? That's impossible. Maybe they were frustrated. Maybe it was, no, that's not the plan here. Jesus, you're going to become a king and we're going to rule and reign with you. Or maybe they were afraid. Maybe there was so much uncertainty. They were thinking like, well, now what? And so they're filled with deep grief. They're heartbroken. And if I'm honest, I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to be given something I don't understand, I don't think I can handle. It's too great. And I'm filled with grief, and so are you. I can remember when Reed was younger, my oldest son, he had to have some oral surgery. They had to repair a gum that had been in decline. And in order to do that, they had to scrape literally flesh off the top of his mouth and stitch it to that gum. And he was so little that he didn't really understand. So I remember taking him to the oral surgeon, and he's sitting on the chair. And I know he has to go through this because it's going to heal him. But I'll never forget the look in his eyes, as if to say, Daddy, why is this happening? Why? And I knew it's what needed to happen. But I remember the pain in that moment. It's like life sometimes. Something happens and it's just too devastating, almost too much to handle. And this is exactly what the disciples were feeling. And then it happened. In that hour, Jesus said to the crowd, "Am I leading a rebellion that you have come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I sat in the temple courts teaching, and you did not arrest me. But this has all taken place that the writings of the prophets might be fulfilled." Then all the disciples deserted him and fled. Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas the high priest, where the teachers of the law and the elders had assembled. The high priest said to him, "I charge you under oath by the living God, tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God." "You have said so," Jesus replied. Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? Look, now you have heard the blasphemy. What do you think?" "He is worthy of death," they answered. Then soldiers took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole company of soldiers around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on his head. They put a staff in his right hand. Then they knelt in front of him and mocked him. "Hail, King of the Jews," they said. They spit on him and took the staff and struck him on the head again and again. And after they had mocked him, they took off the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. From noon until 3 p.m, darkness came over all the land. And about 3 p.m, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. So have you ever asked the question, why did Jesus have to die? I think the disciples are asking this question. And the answer is going to come on Easter Sunday. But the truth is that right now, Jesus is showing that there's actually another option to death. That grief is actually a part of the process. It's a part of actually living. And sometimes we have to go through it. It's not what we want to hear, but it's what we need to hear. And so Jesus says to them, yes, I'm going to die, but on the third day, I will be raised to life. And you'd think that they would catch that, but they didn't. And I guess I wondered, as I was reading that again, why 3 days? Why not immediately? Don't you wish God would just do it instantly for you? Just solve the problem. You pray and it's fixed. But it's not always, is it? And why 3 days? Why not 10 days or a month? And actually, the truth is that Jesus was fulfilling a deep-seated, powerful biblical theme. You see, for many of us, we see death as an end, as something random that happens to all of us, and it's an ending. And so for us, when we experience pain, we see it as a no, as a rejection, as a stopping of something good. But the Bible actually explores this idea that sometimes through the grief, there is a transition, there is potential into something better. A promise is about to be fulfilled. And so for 3 days, the theme in the Bible is, yes, the promise is there, but it's just not yet. And maybe you feel stuck in the not yet of your life. You know God has promises, and you want to believe what Jesus said. You want to believe the best, that he can forgive you and restore you and heal you. But right now, you're stuck in the not yet. This is exactly where Abraham was when God asked him to sacrifice his son Isaac. It was a 3-day journey, 3 days. And on the 3rd day, he sees the place, but for 3 days, he's wrestling with God. What are you doing? Why is this happening? Why would you ask me to do this? Or when the people of Israel are going to receive the commandments of God from Mount Sinai, God tells Moses to tell him to wait for 3 days. And on the 3rd day, he's going to show up. And if you know the story, they lost their way in those 3 days. God, where are you? Why do we have to wait? Why can't you just tell us now? And there's the story of Jonah. Remember, for 3 days and 3 nights, he's in the belly of the whale. For 3 days, he's probably thinking, is this going to be resolved? Is this the end? Is this it? And you understand that, don't you? So do I. Often in life, I'm handed something I don't understand. It's confusing. I'm frustrated. I ask God, where are you? Why don't you do something right now? And I don't like the answer, but sometimes the answer is not yet. And so Jesus is in the tomb, and the disciples are wrestling with, what do I do with this grief? What do I do with the not yet? And they probably are asking God, why aren't you doing something? But the answer is actually God is doing something. And we see this picked up in 1 Peter 3:18, where we're reminded that, yes, Christ suffered for our sins once for all time, that there is purpose in his death. It brings us freedom. He never sinned, but he died for sinners to bring you safely home to God. It was the only way that we could be restored. But it's a journey, right? Safely home to God. He suffered physical death, but he was raised to life in the Spirit. But what was he doing in those 3 days in the tomb? Well, it says he went and preached to the spirits in prison. What I love about this story is that God isn't ignorant of our grief. As a matter of fact, he sits with us in it. We forget that Jesus wept often when he thought of the heartbreak he saw around him. We forget that Jesus wept before the cross, realizing the pain and agony he was about to suffer. We forget that Jesus experienced separation from God on the cross, and that the Father's heart was broken as he turned away from his Son. For the first time, they experienced this separation that you and I experience all the time. And so God is in the not yet. He sits in it with us. I got thinking again about what I started with. And you may be asking, like, what is that? Like, maybe you don't know. Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's a tulip bulb. And the truth is, it doesn't look like much, and it kind of looks ugly, to be totally honest with you. But inside this bulb is incredible potential. But it's not there yet, is it? The truth is that if you're a gardener, you got to take this bulb, you got to put it in the ground, and you have to wait. You have to trust that the promise that this has is going to be fulfilled. And the truth is, this needs to be put in the ground. It needs water, it needs oxygen, and it needs light. And if it experiences those 3 things, something new is going to grow out of this, something even better than what you see right now. And I think in the same way, God, when he put Jesus in the ground, when Jesus was put in the tomb, realized that something good was going to come, something was going to happen in you and I, that the water were God's tears for a broken humanity. The oxygen was God's gift exchange of Jesus' life for ours. And the light was our ability to reach out to him and experience him so we could become everything we were created to be. And so I'm here to tell you the truth. Your grief does not need to define you. I know it's difficult, and I, like you, am confused often, and I don't understand, and I don't know why I have to walk through the valley of the shadow of death. But the Bible reminds us it's so that we can get to something better. And so when I don't understand, and when I am confused, I'm reminded of the spring. If you look outside your window right now, you're going to see something beautiful happening, right? Nobody really likes winter. Okay, those of you who like skiing and building snowmen, good for you. But the truth is, nobody likes a long winter. The truth is that we all love summer. And the transition between winter and summer is the spring. And I love the spring because promise and potential starts to pop up everywhere. We see it in the buds on the trees and the blades of grass that start to push through the ground again. We see life, animals returning. It's this idea that summer is coming. And I think the cross and the grave on Good Friday are God's answer to our pain, our winter. It's the spring. It's the beginning of the promise being fully fulfilled. And I need you to know this, summer is coming. It may not seem like it to you right now, and it may seem so far and distant that it seems impossible. The disciples understand that. They sit with you in that confusion on Good Friday. But for those of us who have hope, it's a reminder that even in our darkest moments, God is doing something. He is present, and he promises that he will make all things new. And he keeps his promises. But in the meantime, we lament, we grieve, but not like those who have no hope, because we know that God is going to keep his promise. This is why it is to be continued. It's not the end of the story. Easter is coming. And so, yes, we sit with the disciples in our not yet moment, confused, frustrated, perhaps, but with hope that God promises he will make all things new. This story will be continued, not only on Easter Sunday, but in you and I, here and now. And so the cross reveals the pain of a broken world. The cross exposes our need of Jesus. Our cross gives us promise that we can direct our grief toward a God who is doing something, who is sitting with us, who is navigating all things so that they can be new. Something greater can happen. We can experience the life we were intended. But in the meantime, let your tears fall, let your heart be broken, and let your voice be heard.
Where does the light go? Why does the night fall? Hope's under fire. We're stumbling in the dark, lost in the shadows when the sun yields its life. When we think all the light has gone. Where does the light go? Why does the night fall? Hope's under fire. We're stumbling in the dark, lost in the shadows when the sun yields its light. When we think all the light has gone, the sun will always rise. The sun will always rise. Where does it go? Where does the light go? Why does the night fall? Hope's under fire. We're stumbling in the dark, lost in the shadows when the sun
Wow, what a powerful time we've had together today. And I just really hope you were challenged. I hope that you were able to take a few moments just to reflect on what Jesus did for you. And we're going to be continuing this conversation on Sunday. And I'm excited because Sunday is coming. That means hope is on the way, and we're excited about that. So we do want to encourage you to take your next step today. And for you, maybe your next step is just to reflect today. Maybe just to take a few moments to reflect on what Jesus did for you and what that means for you and how that can affect your life. I want to encourage you to think about that and to talk and to reflect about that today. And then also, we do want to invite you back on Sunday. Again, we have a few spots remaining. You can join us in person at 9, 10:30, or 12. Simply head over to our website to find out more information on that. Or you could join us, as always, online. We'd love for you to be there with us as well. If you have any questions, head over to our website at centralcc.ca/connect, or you could text the word central to 905-937-5610. So glad that you could be with us. We're going to see you back here on Sunday. Hope you have an amazing weekend.